Welcome to Mitchell Levy Presents, where I dive into the essential elements of clarity and credibility. Hosted by global credibility expert Mitchell Levy, today's episode offers invaluable insights to make you think and act more credibly. Join us as we explore living your values, boosting your credibility, and leading purposefully. Hi, Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert, and welcome. I'm really glad you're here. And, I have to tell you, I normally say welcome to the funnest part of my day, but I've had an amazingly cool day. So every day, every part of it's been fun. And we're going to continue that with my conversation with John Philpin. John, welcome.
Thank you, Mitchell. Lovely to be here. I'm noting that I'm second on your list. Got it.
I'm not sure I would have taken that into consideration that way, but okay. So, John, so other people know who you are. Who are you?
John Philpin, UK citizen, army brat, traveled the world a lot, which probably is part of the reason I left the UK and went to America and lived in Silicon Valley for many, many years, managed in the decades. Then recently, as in 6 years ago, moved to New Zealand. At the time, I didn't know I was moving to New Zealand. I thought I was coming down for a holiday. But if you think about 6 years ago, COVID arrived in the middle. And so we hung out there for a while, started to like the place. My partner's a Kiwi anyway. So we decided to stay down here, even though we still operate in the US and back in the UK and in terms of Jax as well, Poland and so on, wherever we need to be. It's a virtual world. So that's who I am, curious, interested, always about people, trying to wake up corporations to that effect.
What does that mean? Not the curious, interested, because we know what that means, but wake up corporations to individuals. What does that mean to you?
So we as humans, not to sound like new age and things, but we spend too long serving the master, and the master is the corporate. We have to earn money. We seem to have a society structured around turning up at corporate and earning that money. And corporate historically, not so much these days, but certainly historically has been focused on maximizing shareholder returns. And they've gone through various machinations to do that, but generally at the expense of people, and particularly their staff and their vendors. Customer first, maybe 25 years ago. We're now shifting into a new world where the shift of power is actually switching to humans. That shouldn't be at the cost of corporations losing their way. So I'm really about helping corporations understanding what that means, because they're not very skilled at it.
John, I love that. If only I saw or thought that was even a teeny bit true. Because I don't see it.
The first bit or the second bit?
I see corporations focused on one master, and that's investors.
Yes.
And it is permeated throughout society.
Yes. I would agree with it. It's an uphill battle. But, for example, that data's just coming out of the US that we've got, I can't remember, it was like so many more individual entrepreneurial businesses that have been set up in the past year, more so than ever before, which suggests that people are fed up with it. The other side, of course, is that corporates have made so many people redundant, they're left with no choice.
I was
whether
thinking
they're volunteer entrepreneurs is different.
I was thinking is they were fired and couldn't get the new job, so they started a business. But
there will be a lot of that.
Yeah. So for you personally, why is this important?
I think I've always been this way. I started my life in corporate, had a couple of false starts in various odd companies in the UK, but got into software fairly early on. And that's been my discipline. And I used to look at software as being something that was, empowering the individuals. And indeed, when I started out, it was. And my observation that started really 15 years ago is the industry slightly has lost its way. And the fact we call, it's an old one, but we call our customers users is indicative of kind of the look that they have of us. If you look at things like what's happening or what's happened historically with Cambridge Analytica and Facebook, and the stories are endless. To me, though, when I was in corporate, it was about humans, right? So we used to switch on technology that enabled individuals in that organization to see better. And when we did that, they used the software, they took things to customers, and the customers said, oh, I like that, I'll have one of those. And so it almost went on by word of mouth about the value we could bring in. And so, whenever I've been marketing, when I've been sales, running technology, CEO, outside, inside organizations, I've always asked the questions about how do people fit in, the people first, as I called it, with my sort of setup when I first got out of corporate. It just had been something ingrained in me. And it was only when I left corporate that I started analyzing what I was doing. I thought, oh, that really is what I'm about. Regardless of whether I sold or did marketing, what I was really about was empowering people. And that's why I was frustrated with the way software was.
Do you feel empowered living where you live now?
Do I feel empowered living where I live now?
Sorry, I switched topics in a very
Yeah,
subtle way.
yeah, no, spotted.
Sorry.
You mean because of the country I'm in versus
Because
America?
6 years ago, you switched out of where you were living somewhere else, and you were forced to be there for a number of years because of COVID, and now all of a sudden you're still staying. And how's that feel for you?
Well, I'm still sane. I still keep my feet very firmly in America because that, in all honesty, is where you can make money. New Zealand, not so much. There's a second part of my story. COVID trapped me, and then I was diagnosed with cancer, and so had to stick around because they couldn't get me into hospital. So I came through all of that. That required me to stick around being with doctors. And by that time, going in and out of bad health problems, I was kind of moving here. So it wasn't particularly that I volunteered to stay here, but I don't know, I'm looking at an amazing view out there and I'm thinking, yeah, not a bad place to be. So do I feel more empowered? It's interesting, it's mixed. I'm more empowered because I'm my own person and I get to choose who I work with and why I work with them. I don't think New Zealand is as advanced in thinking about the kind of stuff I talk about as America is. At a government level, they certainly are, but at an individual level in companies, I'm not sure that's the case. And it's also a much smaller marketplace, in all honesty. We have less people in all of New Zealand than you have in the Bay Area. It's a different kind of operation. But so more empowered in some ways, not so empowered in others. It's not an open and shut case.
By the way, I am so honored that I am getting a chance to talk to you, and you did move through that health crisis.
I did, because you have to. What are you going to do otherwise?
So it's interesting you say that the government is more aware than maybe the individuals. Tell me about that. What's that mean?
Well, I think there are very sort of, all kinds of protections that are set up for, indigenous people in a way that certainly doesn't exist in America, but probably doesn't exist in most parts of the world. We're set up for protection of human rights with laws and things that protect him. We have people actually watch all that. They're probably not different to many laws we have around the world, but we actually manage by them as opposed to, yeah, that's a law, but who cares? Right. And I think that's the difference here. Now, good or bad, I don't know. There's parts of that complicates what you get to do down here. So that changes.
What's a positive and negative aspect of managing by those laws?
So the positive is that the aware corporates that you talk to and the people around there and the way that society as a whole thinks about things, I would say we're still very much, on the positive side, but bit by bit, as the extremes of the world catches up with New Zealand, that's starting to change, and it's up to the society to work out whether it wants that to change or not. We're currently in a right-wing government, not an extreme right-wing government by any stretch of the imagination, kind of like the UK's Tory and Labour. But, you hear things that if you think about Jacinda Ardern, who is in many ways a, sort of a figure that was respected all over the world, there is definitely a pushback in this country that she wasn't very good. I don't know. Can't speak to that at all. Don't know her. She seemed all right to me. Buxton seems all right. They're all sitting in the middle. So we don't have those kind of extremes. That's the positive. But you smell it going that way. On the negative, one of the things that's frustrating around New Zealand is their greatest strength is that their remoteness means that they're used to fixing things. It's called the 8-wire, right? So when there are a few people down here, something needs fixing, you don't crow across the hill to find somebody to help you, you fix it. And that's culturally embedded. I've got a great idea for a new piece of software, but you don't look across the Pacific or even the Tasman Sea to Australia to say, does this exist somewhere else? How do I improve it? We just start again. And that happens within the country as well. So that to me is probably my biggest frustration for New Zealand. And I'm not alone. If anybody tracks New Zealand in LinkedIn, you'll find many people talking this way.
That's fascinating. All right, we're switching to clients. What makes a good client, or let's add it in a different way, that they pay us? What makes a client that you wake up every morning and go, wow, this is fun?
That what I'm doing is that they're paying attention to, we're starting to see a change, right? So I don't want to say, here you go. So my consulting, which I hesitate to use the word, the work I do with companies, I hate to say, there you go, there's your answer, move away. I like to be involved, right? Because otherwise,
We're not going to name any companies that just only do that.
We're not. No names, no tax. So I like to get involved, and if I find somebody who's paying attention and what we're saying works, and if what I'm saying doesn't work, we've experimented, we tweak to try and find the right ways. And I'm finding people that I'm working with, oh yeah, this is working, right? That works positively. If they're looking for, well, I know you do marketing, John, but what do you know about lead generation? In lead generation, what about copyright? Can you do? It's like they get down into the weeds, and I'm much more of a yes, I can do all of that, but you really don't want to pay me to write copy for you. So the frustration is that we're living, again, the tech bros, the fractionalization of work means that no longer you're a marketeer, you're an ad person, you're a copy, go all the way down, and that's what they fill for, because that's what the bots are filling. And we've lost this idea of somebody that connects all the dots. I describe myself as, when you look at an organization with all the boxes, I'm that blue ocean that swims around the boxes. I sit there. I want to bring it all together, have a holistic view of it. And that is harder to find. People like to categorize. It's in our nature.
I don't disagree. So why do you like that? What gets exciting for you? Why do you like that aspect of it?
Because it takes it out of theory and into practice, and I can sort of see somebody changing things that they sort of, it's an old one of mine, but I need to change my sales VP. Why is that? Well, we're not doing very much sales. Oh, why is that? Well, because of sales VP. Oh, how was he in his last company? He was great. So you're the variation, not him. If he's great, let's look at other things. And you peel back the onions and then rebuild it. And it's easy enough to do that. It's a doctor, right? The doctor that looks, I do that and it hurts. Well, don't do that. Well, actually, it hurts like that because you've done something with your leg. It's those kind of things that at a corporate level is easy to do. It's very hard for an organization who, if you've got a powerful Department X and there's something going around with Department Y, could it be Department X causing that problem? And we've got these subcultures that build up and around organizations that takes them down the wrong thing. Very few of them can actually reduce back down to fundamentals and then build up. We were talking about this before we got started. Starting again is really, really tough, particularly for a corporate. You should do this, dear corporate. Oh, we tried that a couple of years ago. It didn't work. Okay. Try this. We've tried everything. Well, why are we in business then? It's just if somebody is not open to what you did 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, is not different because the context around, Jack Welch, I read his book and it's great. Yeah, well, Jack lived a long time ago and was in a very different company to you. Everything's changed since then. So that's not going to help you. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your company in your context, with your market, your problems. Let's work out that.
So, there was so many, based on that answer, so many places I wanted to take here, but let's go very specific. You jump into a client and you keep hearing the same thing over and over. Yeah, we try that. We try this. We try this. Yeah. And you finally determine that the client hired you, but they're not coachable. What do you do at that stage?
So I think, wisely or unwisely, I probably establish that before I get involved. And let me tell you why. People will say,
that was a trick question, so thank you for yes.
People will say to me, John, what do you do? Right? They go to my website and it's all over the place. I don't understand what you do. And the reason that people don't understand what I do, people that know me do, and they know that my world is about helping you increase your profits and build your revenues for your organization in your marketplaces, whatever they are. That's what I do. The how is where it gets tricky. Well, what specifically? I said, I will say, well, what problem do you have? Because the fact we're talking here means that you think you've got a problem. I'm pretty sure I can fix it, but I need to know you to tell me what that problem is. So they'll ask their problem, and I'll be doing this diagnosis as part of the engagement, right? And sometimes this will work, and sometimes it wasn't. In fact, I was looking just at my calendar today. It was about a year ago. I was working with a company here in New Zealand, or pitching to, and we've gone through lots and lots of really good positive meetings. Then all of a sudden, boom, gone, right? And I'm convinced there's an element in the company that just said, nah, this is going to be too threatening, right? Now, that could be my arrogance, I don't know. But, at the same time, everything about that company needed me and I could help them. They answered all the questions, they were ready to go until they weren't. So you don't get to do that job. It's very unusual to go through that process, get involved with the company, and then go, oh, they're not coachable. I'm determining that before I even get involved.
Yeah, sorry. I apologize. That was a trick question, because the only answer is I wouldn't take a client on in the first place if they were not coachable. But I I just felt like I needed to ask, and boom, there it popped out. But isn't that interesting? You and I agree. If I'm asked by a board to look at a CEO and coach them, first thing I have to do is see if they're coachable. And it's a yes, no, it's an on-off switch. And you and I agree that that's important.
Yeah.
But how many people would say, oh, it's money, it's a job, I'll take it?
Oh, most, and particularly in these times, because we have a lot of money problems around the world.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, isn't it?
I mean, back before we had this rise of entrepreneurship, I met many people who were living in corporate saying, oh, I wish I did what you did. I want to get out. What stopped you? Oh, well, I've got a mortgage, I've got kids, I've got college. I can't get out. Oh, so you don't think you earn as much money as an entrepreneur as you do in corporate? That's a bit broken. So, and now suddenly we find this sudden increase in people as entrepreneurs. It's like people haven't just changed their minds overnight. Most people want that safety and security. It happens a lot, right? It's like, tell me what to do. Not let me think. We even train people in our colleges and schools. We train them, we don't educate them. By train is, this is what you do. This is how you pass your exam. It's not educating them to be inquisitive, to be curious and to question the authority. That's seen as bad even today. You questioned authority, how dare you? We're going to silence you. That's what I mean, right? And there's ways to do it. And there's plenty of people who are very successful by questioning authority. But it's not on way that most people think. And one of these transitions going on at the moment is a problem because we're not trained to think and be curious, that a lot of those people setting up in business aren't going to work because they don't know how to be curious and they don't know how to say no and, oh, it's more revenue, great. I have a lot of Johnisms in my world, and one of those is not all revenue is good revenue.
Mm. Yeah, ah, that's a great ism, buddy. Yeah. You were talking about this concept of discernment and the fact that we're not taught. We
Yes.
are. So why do you? I have my theories, and actually, it's one of my talks. But why do you think that is? Why and why do we think? Why do you think humans accept being taught not to be discerning?
Um, so let's deal with the first one first. So the acceptance, I think, is partly that we've been trained to be that way. It wasn't that long ago, when my grandfather says, "Don't answer back. This is what I'm saying. This is what you're doing." It's only recently we've been able to sort of fight back and rebel. The hippies fought back and rebelled in the '60s, and they were weird, right? They were shot for their disobedience. So there is a certain amount of training. Now that's beginning to flip. That's what I mean. This power of the human condition, the human operating system, is beginning to rise. And we're seeing this in politics, which is one of the slowest things to do in terms of changing the whole thinking. But we're also seeing it in terms of how corporations are seeing customers. You're watching corporations putting up prices because people are leaving them. It used to be you take down your prices if customers are leaving you. But all they're seeing is the dollars and increasing it because they want more out of what they've got, and so on and so forth. And I think it comes from the fact that our education system is so old that it's based around what we needed when it all started. We set up a factory system, and in that factory, we trained people. We're going to need people to do this job, do that job, do the other job, to the point that, we've now got universities that are teaching skills. They teach you how to code in a university. And it's like, who taught Bill Gates and Steve Jobs how to code back in the day, right? And actually, a lot of the indie web people I know, they learn it. And nobody taught you how to do AI in university because it wasn't there. So this whole change is gone. But we train, we don't educate, and it's almost like cultural behavior changes that. You go to an art gallery, don't touch the sculpture. Don't touch the sculpture. Think about that. Why? Right now, you can understand artifacts, but a sculpture from 15 years ago. Why wouldn't you want to touch it? Because part of the sculpture idea is a tactile feedback. So these rules surround us, and that programs us to think and operate in a certain way.
Mm. And how does that negatively affect corporations today?
Because you get very frustrated people inside their corporations, right? So you have this thing at the moment flying around. The Gen Z are silently rebelling against AI. They're actively activists out to destroy it, etc. I have no idea whether that's true or not. But what I do know is that if you tell a company, I'm bringing AI in, I want to carry on doing it, we're going to put keystroke software and track what you do so we can replace you, which is not what they say, but that's what they're doing. Yeah, of course you're going to get a little bit of pushback. And so we're becoming more aware of this as humans. There's more, and again, you won't get it out of the mainstream, but the non-mainstream world is so big now, in the world of podcasts, in the world of the newsletter, the websites, the individual things, etc. All of that, if you want to search out and find the people that you respect and want to follow without the corporate algorithm, which is also important, it's easy to do. Easy. From a few years ago when people would leave media, news, central media, and set up a podcast, and they were looked on as being very odd. Why on earth would you do that? Yeah. So
Right. Interesting. Hey, John, I'm listening to you, right? And I'm feeling something, but I've known you for a while, so I I'm feeling this authentic guy talking to me and just laying out your true feelings. Like there's no BS, there's no runaround, there's no hidden agenda, there's no games. What made you decide that authenticity was important to you?
I'm not sure that I made a decision about authenticity. That's a word that doesn't really come into my vocabulary. Um, what I've always done, and sometimes not so well, in all honesty, but what I've always tried to do is to be fair, right? And to be fair, there's a certain amount of openness that you've got to have, right? So, why are you getting rid of me? Well, you suck. Why are you bringing me on? I think you can do a good job, but to do a good job, you're going to have to do X, Y, Z. If you don't do X, Y, Z, guess what? We're going to be having a conversation. So the authenticity, I think, comes from being clear about what you expect of people, how that contributes to what. And again, I'm in corporate land at the moment, which is where the majority of my career has been. This is what we're trying to do as an organization. This is how it contributes to the overall corporate position. This is what these different people do. This is what we expect you to do. We think that's a good match for us. Work with us, ask questions, come to the meetings, listen to us, but move the ball down the pitch. And if you're not going to do that and you're just joining because you want to sort of, have a safe place to earn your however many hundreds it is, then not really a place for you. And that's respected because I'm still in touch with people that 25, 30 years ago that will just, pick up the phone to me and say, John, I'm doing this, can you help? And that longevity, there's a young guy I'm meeting at the moment who worked for me, I can't remember the time now, but he's doing something in his new company. He wants to implement people first thinking. Can you help me? I can, yeah. And just doing it because he's reached out. I know him, he knows me, he knows what I'm going to deliver, and away we go. And it's I have conversations with people about what I do is almost like an experiential sell. It's very hard to articulate what I do, but anybody who's been through it goes, holy crap, yeah, excuse me. Oh, we're on podcast, it's okay. Holy mackerel. Holy mackerel, you've
Dude,
just
that's not a
changed
bad
our
word.
world. Yeah. Holy mackerel, you've just changed our world. This is amazing. And then they go on and say, if you should try talking to John because John will solve this problem and right.
Right.
So, but to actually write down the equation of John plus X plus Y gives you Z, the X and Y are unknowns, and the Z has to be what you want it to be, not what I want it to be.
Oh, absolutely. So true. Hey, listen, if you're listening or you're watching and you're interested in reaching out to John Philpin, John, what would be the best way for people to do that?
Well, my name, John Philpin, says it all. So if you look at the bottom there, philpin.com is my place. I have a blog at john.philpin.com. I have a Substack at substack.philpin.com. My email's john@philpin.com. Look up John Philpin on LinkedIn. You will find me. John Philpin is my name. It's an unusual enough name that, in fact, it stands out. But I'm not John Philpin, the criminal profiler, just so you know. So when you discover the criminal profile books on Amazon, he is related to me. He's a lovely chap, love him to bits, but that's not me. But otherwise, that's me. John Philpin, look him up anywhere.
John, if there was a question that you had in the back of your mind that I didn't ask, what do you think it should be? What question didn't I ask that you would have wanted to hear?
I'm not sure I think, as always, Mitchell, you have a very good way of penetrating. Yes, you've known me a long time, and therefore we get together and talk, and you know who I am. And there's nothing particularly specific other than the book I published with you for business leaders that get slapped in the face by a world they thought they knew, written before COVID.
Man, I still love that title.
After COVID, and certainly applicable in AI. So that book that I wrote with your massive help to get that out through the door and onto Amazon, I seem to recall we've made a bestseller. That book, written in 2019, applies to COVID. It applies to my cancer. Yeah, I got cancer. now what am I going to do? Jax and I talk about whether we're going to turn that into a cancer guide, because there are a lot of things in there that we took and applied to how I got better. And certainly a world gets slapped in the face. The world, when you're slapped in the face by a world you didn't know, it's incredible, because that's what's happening to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people around the world. I used to be a knowledge worker that earned lots of money. I don't anymore. What are you going to do? That book helps. So that, I would say, is one. But otherwise, I think we're there.
By the way,
come and say hi. Just follow and reach out. Touch me by email. More than happy to get into a conversation with whoever it is.
By the way, that's every publisher's dream client is someone who doesn't miss an opportunity to present their book. So that's not what I was asking. And thank you.
Of course.
So I appreciate that. So John Philpin's book, Business Owners Who Were Slapped in the Face by a World They Didn't Know. John, thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Mitchell. Lovely to be here. Thank you for the invite. And look forward to the next time we talk.
All right. So, hey, guys, you're still here. Whether you are listening or watching, it is now time for you to take action. It is time to take that aha moment that you got from listening to John and to share it on whatever social media platform is relevant for you. So make sure you tag him, tag me, and I look forward to seeing your comments, and we'll absolutely respond back. Once again, thank you so much for joining me today, and look forward to seeing you at the next episode of Leaders Living Their Values. Take care, everyone. Bye now. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you found value in today's episode. Like, subscribe, and share your aha moments on your preferred platform. Remember, credibility starts with clarity and living your values. Learn more at mitchelllevy.com. Until next time.